Breaking tonight, major developments on the crisis in Ferguson, Missouri, as a new night of protests unfolds. And the Missouri governor ignites a firestorm with comments sounding like he has decided the guilt of the officer involved in this case long before any investigation is completed. Welcome to a special live midnight hour of the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. After 2 people were shot and more than 80 arrested last night, we are keeping a close eye on the streets of Ferguson there tonight. You can see the police presence for yourself. And we are also tracking a stunning report that broke just before we went to air at 9 p.m. Eastern this evening. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, a Democrat, released a taped statement about the officer-involved shooting that killed 18-year-old Mike Brown a little more than a week ago. While there are conflicting accounts and multiple investigations still underway, and the officer has yet to be heard in this case with his own defense of his conduct, in prepared remarks tonight, the Missouri governor seemed to suggest that he knows exactly how this case should go.
10 days ago, a police officer shot and killed Michael Brown in broad daylight. We have a responsibility to come together and do everything we can to achieve justice for this family. A vigorous prosecution must now be pursued. The democratically elected St. Louis County prosecutor and the Attorney General of the United States each have a job to do. Their obligation to achieve justice in the shooting death of Michael Brown must be carried out thoroughly, promptly, and correctly. Once we have achieved peace in Ferguson and justice for the family of Michael Brown, we must remain committed to rebuilding the trust that's been lost. So I ask that we continue to stand together as we work to achieve justice for Michael Brown.
The fallout from that has not stopped. I had a chance to speak with the mayor of Ferguson earlier tonight, and I asked him for his reaction to these remarks and the governor's statement that he's ready to see this officer face prosecution even before the investigations are complete or the grand jury meets. Chris Stirewalt is our Fox News digital politics editor. So tell us about Governor Nixon and what he's up to here. I will say, as somebody who practiced law for nearly a decade, that was an irresponsible and outrageous statement to make on the eve of the grand jury convening, and he needs to walk it back and apologize for getting out ahead of his skis. Chris, good to see you.
You bet.
Several hundred people protesting in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. So far, no reports of clashes with police. Fox News correspondent Mike Tobin is live in Ferguson tonight with the late-breaking details. Mike?
Hey, Megyn, I can show you the kind of the tail end of the most excitement we've seen tonight. And this is a line of police officers. What they did is clear out the parking lot that kind of runs parallel to Florissant Avenue. And they cleared out the parking lot because you had a lot of loitering out there. People hanging around, and every time you get the people hanging around and there's a group, that's where the trouble seems to boil up out of. We saw a couple of people getting pretty fired up in the bunch. And the technique we've seen from the police is that they are using some of the religious leaders and community leaders as mediators who go and approach these people when they get fired up and talk them down. And we've watched that a couple of times. And they can't get these mediators to talk down that individual, well, then the police come and they just pluck them out of the crowd. Each time they do that, there's a big bunch of drama, there's a big bunch of friction, and that's the kind of thing the police are trying to avoid. Got big numbers out here. You've got the tactical vehicles. They're in different positions than they were last night. But by and large, what they're letting the protesters do is protest to their heart's content until they run out of steam. Megyn?
Mike Tobin, thank you. Well, the marchers have had no shortage of company in recent days, including visits from the Reverend Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, who shared this thought at a rally on Sunday.
We have had enough. The issue is how a young man with no deadly threat, no life-extenuating circumstances, was shot multiple times. That's the issue, and that's the issue America's got to deal with. We don't want no double talking. We don't want no backsliding. We want to know where justice is.
Joining me now, Pastor Robert White from the Peace of Mind Church. He has been out there trying to maintain calm and lower the temperatures. Pastor, good of you to be with us tonight. You don't think that Al Sharpton is helping, nor Jesse Jackson. Why?
Actually, we do appreciate the support that we've gotten from our national leader. Mr. Sharpton has provided some invaluable support to us here at the local level. And if I can just reiterate what he said, we have had enough. And we want to know where justice is. And so after talking to Mr. Sharpton and sitting down with him, he's actually providing some intel and some strategies for us as local leaders on how we can go through and keep the peace that your reporter was just talking about. The reason that peace is happening is because we have peacekeepers out there. We have clergy out there. We've partnered with other community leaders as well as with the police force on what we can do each day to keep the peace in the community.
Well, I think that's great because your group really has been out there working to do that, and kudos to you. But I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying about Reverend Al Sharpton, because you spoke with our producers earlier and said that you believed that Reverend Jackson and Reverend Sharpton were only here for a photo op, and you were critical of them. Are you saying that since then you've sat down with Al Sharpton and you've come to a different point of view?
Well, I think the power of words have allowed me to have access to sit with him and talk. So it gave me an opportunity to not just see what's on the news, to sit down with him and talk about strategies going forward.
And let me guess, those strategies include you not criticizing him anymore.
Oh, I don't have a problem criticizing him. We're not going to agree on everything, but right now we're in agreement as to what we can do each day to keep the peace. We're trying to eliminate the number of guys who are being arrested, the number of people who are being killed, as well as the number of outside agitators that are coming here causing all this ruckus in our community.
Breaking tonight as we watch the protests unfold in Ferguson, we are also keeping an eye on St. Louis. A 23-year-old black male was allegedly robbing a convenience store today when police showed up, and he is said to have spoken to the officers saying, quote, "Kill me now," as he moved toward them with the knife. Justin Glaw is a contributor for the Daily Beast. He joins us live from Ferguson. He just filed a story on this incident in St. Louis. And so, Justin, they did shoot and kill him.
Yeah, and obviously there's still we still don't have a name for the guy who was shot and killed today, but it's been a concern, probably for a lot of law enforcement here, on whether or not that's going to be a situation that turns into kind of another flashpoint, because it's come so soon after Mike Brown's death.
Tonight, there is no curfew in Ferguson, Missouri. It is nearly midnight Central Time, and the protests don't look like they are stopping anytime soon, although we are not seeing what we saw last night. Steve Harrigan streaming live to us from Ferguson, Missouri. Steve?
Megan, a dramatic difference from what we saw last night. We saw some tear gas, 2 shootings, some bottles thrown at police. Today, almost no violence. What they're trying to do now really is pull off a nonviolent close to this day of protest. We've just heard several community organizers, some religious leaders basically shouting at the protesters, it's time to go home. Go home now and hug your children. You're a real man if you do go home. And it looks like many of the protesters have taken them up. We've seen a really reduced police presence. Last night we saw riot police pretty much 4 deep. They've stayed on the sidelines throughout much of the night. And with both the police and community organizers asking people to go home and not come out after dark, that seems to be just what's happening tonight. A night relatively free of violence here in Ferguson. Megan, back to you.
Let's hope it stays that way. Steve, thank you. Well, almost everyone we have spoken to from Ferguson tonight has had an opinion about remarks we played for you earlier. From Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, a Democrat, here are some of those. Breaking tonight, a deeply disturbing message for America from the terrorists in Iraq. Islamic extremists releasing a new video claiming to show the beheading of an American journalist, and now threatening to kill another American in their custody. Fox News has learned that the video is being analyzed by a special group within the U.S. intel community. We cannot yet confirm its authenticity, but the journalist's family has already weighed in, confirming that it is him and expressing their sadness and their pride in their son. We took this image from the video. The man in orange is said to be journalist James Foley. He is a New Hampshire native. He was reportedly kidnapped in Syria back in 2012. The video shows him kneeling beside a man dressed in black. Foley reads a message clearly written by his captors, and then the video shows the man in black beheading Foley. Earlier, I spoke with General Michael Hayden in an exclusive interview. General Hayden, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Pete Hegseth is here on General Hayden's claim that this barbarism really is the character of the Islamist State and what that means for us.
We have to take this threat as one that could come to our shores very, very quickly, to London, to the United States. And when you give them that power base with an army, Megan, upwards of 80,000 fighters across Iraq and Syria, that should be chilling to all of us.
Pete, thank you.
Thank you.
We are watching Ferguson. The clashes are beginning, as they have repeatedly every night. This is an important story, too. I don't mean to diminish what's happening in Ferguson, but Jim Foley deserves a moment on this broadcast, and he was going to get it. Thank you for watching. I'm Megyn Kelly. I'll see you tomorrow night at 9.